And then your position changes, because once you have that product market fit, it's you really have to execute on the go-to-market. And so you have to start bringing in people who will be better than you with the sales, because your position as the sales leader is over.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech and sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. If you want to see hypergrowth, meet Asaf Ezra, co-founder and CEO of Granulate. Talpiot program alum, Asaf continued his IDF service as a commander in the elite 8200 intelligence unit. He previously held positions as R&D team leader and product manager, where he led 30-plus researchers, engineers, and analysts in large-scale projects. Co-founding Granulate, he hopes to democratize performance and build a world without performance loss.
Asaf Ezra, so good to see you here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
I'm used to see you with an army uniform, but it's a little bit of a different environment now. I think what you're working on with Granulate is just fascinating. Obviously, I'm not the only one that thinks that, having been prompted for all the incredible fundraising you've done and the incredible product that you've built. And I have to say that I took some time going through the team that you're working with, and it's some of the most brilliant people that I've ever met, one by one, and a lot of familiar faces there. So you've built a really incredible team. Asaf, such an incredible journey that you're on. I don't want to waste too much time talking, so can you take me back all the way to your childhood? How do you even get started with technology, programming? You find yourself in Talpiot. How does all that happen?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question. I haven't been asked that throughout my journey. I'll be honest. I think what started it was going to a boarding school for high school in Jerusalem.
Really?
Yeah, it was it's called the Israeli Arts and Science Academy. And the truth is, you're sort of surrounded by a lot of people who are a lot smarter than you, and everyone wants to learn. So it's somewhat between competitive and very educational. So you get a lot of really smart guys trying to teach you what they know. Find yourself working from 8 in the morning to 3 a.m. at night. And so it's very driven to success. And thankfully, I was not the brightest kid in my class. I think one of the brightest was Daniel Gabay, who's a co-founder of Trigo with his brother. And
wow.
Yeah, so we actually didn't even go to the same courses. So he took physics, I took chemistry. So and I was really lucky to get into Talpiot. But to me, the fact that he got in was like a no-brainer.
So obviously, you had a very different upbringing than a lot of other high schoolers, not just in Israel but in the world, right? I mean, it's definitely uncommon in the U.S., but it's also very uncommon in Israel. Did you miss out on things having gone to a boarding school that is so specialized, and it is not necessarily competitive in the bad sense of the word, but very motivating to see a lot of people that are doing some really cool things, and you want to be up to par with them?
Yeah, I think that's actually an advantage in my opinion. Like you get to the place where being called a geek is actually a cool thing, and everyone
Yes.
would like to be called a geek. And you get to see all these amazing stuff that you can only you couldn't probably imagine beforehand, because it wasn't the same environment, wasn't the same inspirational ideas that you're taught. The school actually gives you like 1 week a year where you do whatever it is that you want, and they give you funding for it, which is incredible.
Wow.
So I'm pretty thankful for the opportunities that I had, and I would probably recommend everyone who has the chance to do that, because it's such a huge leap from where I was before to where I ended.
Right. And so you go to Talpiot, which is probably the most luxurious place to go in the army, because It is I believe, a 9-year program where they take you through both academic curriculum, incredibly intensive academic curriculum, and then you are placed in some of the most incredible places for thinkers in the IDF, where you get to use those skill sets. So you go into Talpiot. Tell me a little bit about this experience. And this is obviously very different, having gone through Talpiot at 18, than even a lot of what my friends are experiencing, at Stanford and Harvard, which might be the equivalent of sort of Talpiot, but it's still a very different experience. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you went through it.
I wish I could give you a romantic story. I think all of my journey would be very weird like that. But the truth is, I was kicked out from Talpiot the first time. 4 months in, they let me go due to health issues. I have a low blood pressure, and and so I went to Unit 81, which was sort of published, and I think you could see in the paper that
Yep.
I'm part of that boom that 81 has created. I appreciate that inclusion, but I don't think I had any contribution to that. Um, and so I actually joined the cohort below the one that I joined, and that's where I actually met my co-founder,
Wow.
Tal. I think it was at the second year of the program that you do projects in teams, and we were the only ones who knew how to program in that team, and we were working crazy hours. And we said this would be really cool if we could do that for a living, like working together on our own crazy ideas, and we pretty much there decided that this is what we wanted to do. Obviously, we were two kids with absolutely no idea what it means to start a startup or what it means to do that. But it was the really early days of everything, and we really enjoyed working together. And I think we were lucky enough to be stationed in 8200, not in the same department, but close enough so we were still working together and consulting with each other throughout our service. So for us, it was a good start to the journey, I'll say.
So I have to ask, Asaf, just quick questions. When did you work? And how old were you when you were working with him for the first time within Talpiot?
20.
And how old are you now when you started Granulate with him?
When we started Granulate, we were, or at least I was 28. He's a year younger.
So I just want to make a comparison here, because going through, seeing the young entrepreneurship scene at Stanford, a lot of people are starting out their own ideas, and obviously everybody talks about the importance of the team and the importance of the founding team. And I think that it's just inspiring that, with an 8-year gap, although having gone to the same unit, not having been in the same projects, but going back to that experience where you found a person that you collaborated well with and you enjoyed spending those countless hours, and 8 years later you come back to start your own venture together. I think that's inspiring, and I think it really suits into this mentality that at the end it is about the founding team, and if you find somebody that you're really passionate about working together, then you hold on to that, even if there's an 8-year difference, and it sounds to me like that was the right decision on both of your parts.
I think it's actually more embarrassing than that. We were roommates in a year in Talpiot, and then we were roommates, like flatmates, afterwards while we were serving at 8200. We were practically a married couple for a long time.
I love that. Asaf, so you finish your service, you do so much to defend our beautiful country, Israel, and now you are creating an incredible startup, one of the fastest growing that I've seen, with some of the most incredible investors on board, and a phenomenal team. And you're really tackling a challenging problem that I think most people reading the description on the website wouldn't even be able to piece together really what you're doing, because it's all about optimizations. It's about cloud technology, which, although it's been there for a while, I think that now we're seeing a surge of groups that are trying to optimize. And from what I'm seeing in your case studies, it looks like you're doing some phenomenal things. So tell me a little bit about Granulate, and how do you even come to this idea, having gone working primarily on-premise servers?
So I think the truth is we owe a great deal to YL and the program that we did there. We got out of the army, as you probably know, with zero knowledge of what's going on in the outside world. And as you mentioned, cloud technologies, containers, Kubernetes, whatever. But the truth is, they helped us understand what a customer interview looks like, what a user journey looks like. How do you extract information from the customer when you talk to him without selling him anything, right? Because the truth is, we had nothing to sell. And throughout our meetings, something that came up over and over again was that every or almost every company was running at anywhere between 10 to 40% utilization, and they had a really hard time getting that to the 80s, 90s without encountering a lot of performance degradation, latency spikes, or whatever. And this could reach all the way up to denial of service. And so it made sense that if that's the trade-off, then everyone would be running over provision, because I'm happy to pay for the stability, for the SLAs, for whatever. But the more we researched that with design partners who allowed us to sort of experiment with their own system, we saw that if you're running at 20% utilization and you cut your infrastructure in half, you didn't run at 40% utilization. Like, things were running all over the place. So we started looking into that, and once again, I wish I could tell you like this romantic story about what we found out. But the truth is, we started from the easiest place that was for us, which was the load balancer. But very early on, we realized that the truth is, from a go-to-market perspective, trying to install a load balancer in a company is really hard, because a lot of companies say, okay, let's assume that the POC goes really well. You save us 40%, 50% of our infrastructure or this specific service. What happens next? Like, am I going to trust you with this entire service? What happens if you need to upgrade your server? What happens if there's a bug? Do I experience denial of service? It's like a small part that's the weakest link, or could be the weakest link, and it has no availability or highly available. So you might end up with a super strong technology, a really good POC results, but you're not going to be installed. Right. And luckily, we were sort of the companies were very honest about the feedback, and we were sort of receptive to that. And they told us, if you could do the same thing on one machine, I wouldn't mind risking one machine for the gain that I'm supposed to extract.
Right.
I'm already running very over provisioned. So if that machine fails, that's fine. And if I see that it's stable over time, I'm going to increase that installation and ultimately probably install it on all my production. And we were really lucky that this happened. And we were even luckier that we had such a strong team to be able to do that, take that and create something that might not be possible, to create gains of tens of percentages on a single machine.
But Asaf, I really want to pause here on this point, because I think this is something that a lot of early stage founders are tackling, especially those that are running on security, cloud optimization. Okay, the light turned off. We are back. A lot of those that are running on cloud optimization and infrastructure and security, because at the end, you're building this technology, you assume that it works, you test it locally, but then you have to go and you have to get your first customers, right? And you don't necessarily have, the case studies already and the customers that are already your champions. And you have to go, and the only real way to test it is to actually be inside the company and in your case, route packages one way or another, or do the upgrades one way or another. Was it difficult getting those first customers? Is it based on relationships, based on trust? How do you even get to that point, especially as a first-time entrepreneur?
So here I think there's something very unique in Israel. Like, everyone you talk to really wants to help. And it's true for people who are potential customers, and it's true for founders. So everyone really wants to put you in touch with people that would help you get there. So this could be a startup that's one level ahead of you. raised Series A maybe, and they could be your design partner, very small one, towards an installation at a bigger one. So the truth is, we were very lucky that people really wanted to help, and this was something that they said, look, if you can solve this for us, this is actual money, and it's very tangible, and we'll be happy to see any results. So I think this is the way we started. And when we started talking to people, we realized that load balancer wasn't going to cut it, and we switched to that thing that would run on a single VM. And then people, the same people that told us about the load balancer, were very happy to get us back, jump on a conversation again, and talk about this new thing that you're doing. They didn't care that we told them that was what we were doing, and like a couple of months later, we changed it because this is what they wanted. We were very attentive to their requests.
Right, and it sounds to me like, first of all, that is, I think, one of the single biggest challenges of young entrepreneurs, of truly trying to find that product market fit and not just going with whatever assumptions you had starting on. And I'd love to also hear from your perspective, Asaf, running this company as a young entrepreneur. Yes, vast experience in the technology field and great in academia, but now in the physical world with startups. How does your position as a leader shift as you're so quickly growing the company? Because it seems to me that every fundraising round, every new hire, your job changes a little bit, right? So what is some of the thought process that's going on in your mind right now as you're seeing this company boom?
So first of all, thank you. Those are very kind words, but the truth is, we started probably like every other journey with the question about product market fit. And as you probably understood by now, we had to shift or pivot, like a lot of people would say, in order to reach that and to find something that the market demands. And then we would have to build a product that would actually accommodate those requests. And so we were very lucky in that sense that we found it, I think, or at least it seems so. And then your position changes, because once you have that product market fit, it's you really have to execute on the go-to-market. And so you have to start bringing in people who will be better than you with the sales, because your position as the sales leader is over. You understand the product, you understand what you need to build, you understand how it's going to grow into the vision that you set out for the company, or that was sort of crystallizing during that process. And then you have to bring in the right people to do that, execute the go-to-market with them, bring in people to take care of the product the way that at least you imagine it should be. But they obviously they have their independence because they're closer to the customers. And then you start thinking about two things. One is, how do you reach global domination? And the second is, at some point, you realize that sales motion is going to plateau, because obviously, it has its limits. It might be part of a larger vision. And so you have to start thinking of what's the next step. So if your sales start to go in the exponential way, you want to start hammering on that as much as you can, start expanding to new markets, new verticals. And so you're shifting to marketing and sales rather than the product and R&D that at least I was very focused on early on. And right now it's doing that, as well as understanding, okay, we are at the right end of the curve, but at some point it's going to end, and we will need to be ready for that with a new product that would start the exponential growth, or at least the expand to expand that. So we started very small in our messaging, talking about a single VM, performance of the single VM. Right now we're talking about maybe big data, maybe API service, and maybe next level would also be around complete use cases. How do you do that through healthcare? How do you do that through insurance and so on?
Right, and I have to say that what I love about what you're saying here is on the one hand, you're talking about all this vision and this potential that where you can take the product and you could see yourself going in 4 different verticals that all could mean so much to Granulate. At the same time, you're prioritizing focus. And throughout this whole journey, what I'm hearing from you is that you've had to prioritize and you had to really be focused on the specific segmentations that you're building, the products that you're building, the customer, the product market fit. And I assume that it's a similar mentality for these verticals as well. And Asaf, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. 20 minutes go by way, way too fast. I have about 100 more questions here that I want to ask. But at this point, I just want to thank you for being generous with your time and for 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. Or if I would ask any of your co-founder or employees to, who is Asaf Ezra?
Probably very mission driven. That would probably sum me up.
I love those 3 words. Very mission driven. Asaf, I can't wait to see where you take Granulate. I just love what you're doing. I love the team that you're with. I love your story, and I especially love the fact that from the moment that you started working with your co-founder on one project to when you actually formed the team, it was such a long period of time. But I think that's really the core of what a good company is. So thank you for taking the time, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.